Boyfriend, 31M, thinks he's a good photographer but he's not really. Hey everyone, I'd really appreciate any advice or perspective on an issue that's been bothering me a lot. In the grand scheme of things it's not a big deal compared to other issues on r/relationships, but nonetheless any opinions are welcome. My sweet BF of 5 years unfortunately thinks he's good at photography when he's not really. I know photography is a subjective thing, some people think Lomo photography looks great, some want their photos VSCO'd to death, some want something a little more true to form. But there are some photos that people see and kinda go that's a bad photo, and unfortunately that's how his photos are. There's a few reasons for this. He's very concrete about the numbers and equipment in photography. He seems to legitimately think bad photos look good. A few of our friends have recently gotten married and they've all had really innocuous modern style wedding photos, but he's been wildly critical of all of them for really concrete reasons. For example, a friend's reception photos had clearly been warmed up slightly post-production because she was in a venue with fairly harsh office style fluoro lights, so the photos were made slightly warmer to make everything look a bit cozier, but my BF was like, these colors are inaccurate and not true to life. Or another photo where the photographer had opened the aperture to focus on the couple and the background crowd of guests were blurry. He pointed out that the background crowd wasn't in focus. When I said I think that's the point, my BF thought I was insane. Or there was another arty style black and white photo where the wedding couple had their foreheads pressed together, and the photographer had shot it so the couple were a black silhouette against a light archway. My BF was critical of the photographer for not using a fill flash to light up the couple. He doesn't seem to understand artistic choices in photography at all. He's super sensitive about his photography. He has other hobbies which he's extremely good at, for example building PCs and woodworking. He also engages in these hobbies way more, like every week, than photography, which literally, he's engaged in like once in our relationship together in 5 years. But if you ask him what his hobbies are, he says photography first, and if you mention the other stuff, he says he just dabbles in them. You can also give him opinions and suggestions on the PCs and carpentry and he doesn't get upset at all. But any differing opinions on photography make him very upset. It's like his whole sense of personal worth is tied in with being a photographer, and I don't get why. Because it's become really obvious that we don't agree on photography. We've both taken an agree to disagree stance on this. He initially gave a ton of unsolicited advice every time I took a photo. He's backed off now when we decided we have different opinions on the matter. But the issue is, for all of our shared memory photos, like for our holidays, or when we got our first dog, because he thinks he's very good at taking photos and it's very important to him, he takes over the process. We've got all these really fairly ugly photos of our important times together, and it makes me really sad. I feel really embarrassed when I look at them. For one of our holidays together he asked why I didn't share any of the photos on social media, and I didn't have the heart to tell him why. I showed a few of my friends privately and they all agreed that the photos were really bad. On one hand, I don't think it's right for me to say your photos are bad because, like I said, it's a subjective thing, and we just end up arguing over what counts as a bad photo because we don't agree on this. He also legitimately doesn't seem to see why everyone else sees, so it's a losing battle. But on the other hand, it's really hard for me to keep pretending he's a good photographer when he's not. Any advice or thoughts appreciated. TLDR, BF thinks he's a great photographer, seems to have different photographic artistic tastes to the rest of the world, and it's driving me a little nuts. The first thing you can do is stop letting him take over photographing all your important moments. I mean, let him take what pictures he wants, but you also get to take photos yourself, the way you want. His photos aren't instead of your photos, they're in addition to your own photos, since you have different preferred styles of photographs. You don't have to tell him his pictures suck. Just tell him you want some photos your way, or in your style, too, or whatever. Make it about your differing photographic style preferences, not about the quality of his photography. This is probably going to be a bit cruel, but you can suggest to him to post some of his best work on a photography subreddit to get more objective feedback. Let Reddit be the bearer of bad news. I really want to see these photos. I so want him to be a misunderstood genius, the next big thing in photography. But I suspect this is not the case. It makes a huge amount of sense that his other hobbies are building PCs and woodworking. It seems like he's approaching photography exactly the same way he approaches these other hobbies, but obviously what he's missing is that photography is more art than science, more heart than brain. It seems like he's trying to use photography to capture reality in a very precise, analytical way, but he doesn't understand the emotion that comes as part of it. It seems to me like he looks at photography as a way to record the fact of an event, thus the frustration over backgrounds being blurry. It obscures who else was there, whereas most people appreciate that modern photography is an artistic venture. Sometimes it is hard to take advice from loved ones where advice from a stranger or expert may be well received. Have you thought about taking a photography course together and let the instructor give the advice instead of you? You might also learn a few new tricks too. 50-50 it just turns into calling the instructor a hack and a fraud, but I think you are right, sometimes this stuff is best from a stranger. Does he have any ambition related to photography, or does he just want people to think of him and a photographer? Wife, 33, and employee 28 are making me feel uncomfortable. We are both females and have been out and gay for a very long time. Kara is the breadwinner and for now I stay home with the kids doing school stuff. So my wife Kara, 33, and I have been together 10 years and have 3 kids. Before all this, our relationship is beyond perfect. I definitely found my best half, only small disagreements here and there, but otherwise we are pretty chill and laid back. I mean, parenting is rough at times, but we make a good team. Anyway, she's worked with a woman, Mia, 28, for about 5 years. First at a different company, then brought her over to her new company. My wife is a boss and can hire and do whatever she wants at her company, and she knew Mia was a good employee. My wife is the total opposite of me, outgoing, talkative, really nice to everyone. People often mistake her kindness as flirting, and she's completely oblivious that people take it like that. She's just a friendly person. Mia's personal life is a mess. Lost her kid to her ex, never has stable housing, cheated on her ex-husband with a family member of his, edit added. But according to my wife she's a good person etc, and knows she made mistakes. Fine, whatever, I get it, people mess up. I've never met her all these years because my wife doesn't hang out with her like that, just work/text friends. Even so, we helped her find stable housing because she seemed important to my wife and I wanted to support her friendships. Well, in August time on my wife's phone, yep, snooping because we have never cared in the past about our phones and privacy, but something felt off. I wasn't sure if I was being paranoid due to my past with dating cheaters, but I was curious. Most convos were on Snapchat and a lot of saved pics. Found some that were partially nude and suggestive. Obviously I lost my shit and brought it up right away. She apologized and said it wasn't like that and how she felt bad for Mia and how Mia had bad self-esteem, so she was being nice, and those pics were sent to a lot of people, not just her. I said as her boss and as a married woman she shouldn't be saving pictures of a basically naked women she knew. I have zero problems with porn, as long as the person isn't someone we know. She deleted Snapchat on her own. It was also weird how Kara had used her own Amazon account to buy stuff and have it sent to Mia's apartment. Some of the stuff was questionable, like beyond giving to a friend, but Kara's excuse was that Mia didn't have her own account. But all of a sudden that weekend she got her own. I had no knowledge she was buying her stuff and being paid back. She mentioned it one time when she first moved into her place she was getting her one thing, but that's it. Otherwise the other 10 things I had no knowledge of. Mia has said in the past my wife is amazing and how jealous she is of her life with me. So now in hindsight that screams home wrecker! Exclamation mark. Asked her to limit contact and I honestly wanted a break in our relationship because it all seemed so sketchy. But we have built this amazing life together, so obviously it's hard to put that on pause. Shortly after that my wife was off work for a few weeks and worked from home. We reconnected and worked on things and I really thought we were moving past it all. She was really working hard at redeeming herself. She still had to talk to me at work and I noticed she limited texts, but never actually checked because I honestly wanted to believe her. So recently her phone wasn't attached to her and I looked at her texts. Yay, she texts Mia and nope, not all work related. Kara sends her pictures of our family doing stuff or random things throughout the day and Mia does the same. A lot seemed deleted and watered down. Only a couple comments seemed off and made me uncomfortable. This time I haven't said anything yet, but she can probably tell something's off because I'm pretty short when we talk. I'm so tired of talking about it. She knows where I stand with this woman, so what else do I have to say? I don't want to be controlling and tell her who she can and can't talk to. I want to always face problems head on and work to fix it, not ignore it, but maybe I should. TL, Dr. Wife has gotten inappropriate pics from an employee and has worked to fix it, but it seems to be continuing to some extent. I don't even know what to say anymore because I'm sick of talking about her. You all definitely need to have a convo about why this work relationship means more to your wife than her marriage. When your partner says something makes them uncomfortable, you don't get to decide to do it anyway. Gut instincts are a real thing. You develop that especially when you know a person. There must be other people in her life, but only Mia bothers you. Why? Meet this head on. Remind your wife why you are willing to give her a chance. Seek help. Because yes, a loving relationship is worth saving. And it's better to nip this while you can still move on from this, without it becoming a deal breaker. You don't send naked pics to boss. And boss doesn't save said pics. You shouldn't have to continue to talk about this. The first time was her come to Jesus moment. For you to need to have a second discussion about a lack of boundaries with a coworker suggests this is a choice by your partner. Unfortunately, her friendship with me is crossing many boundaries. You warned her once. Now she is doing it again. You need to ask why certain texts have been deleted. And you need to let your wife know this behavior can and will end your relationship. My 19F friend, 19F, wants me to stop talking to a guy I've been seeing, 20M, because she's in love with him. My friend met this guy back in January, and they talked for about 3 months before they essentially friend-zoned each other and decided to just be friends. A couple months ago the guy started gaining interest in me, and was constantly asking my friend to introduce me to him. Looking back, I guess my friend dodged his request for a while because it took a while for her to eventually give him my phone number. Before he and I started talking, I asked her if it was okay I was talking to him, because of the brief past where they were interested in one another, and she constantly assured me that things were okay. She was super encouraging of us talking and seeing each other, and even pushed him to ask me out on our first face-to-face date. We've been talking for about 2 months and have met around 4 times. We have a lot of chemistry and I'm super into him. However, earlier today I found out from our mutual friends that my friend has been crying non-stop and was extremely angry at me for talking to this guy. Apparently she dropped hints that she didn't want me to see him and that she still had feelings for him. I guess looking back there were the tiniest things I could have paid attention to, like her not giving him my phone number right away. But other than that, she had been completely supportive and had been egging me on to talk to and hang out to this guy. She is apparently still in love with him. This was super surprising because she hardly ever talked about her feelings for him, especially after they had decided to stay friends. I'm assuming that she had repressed feelings for him, and was now starting to realize it when she noticed how well things were going between him and I. I feel like the best way to avoid conflict here is to stop talking to the guy, but another part of me feels that she's not really being fair to me or considering my feelings. He's the first guy I've talked to seriously in a while, and it's been really hard for me to get back into the dating game after I had a traumatic incident about a year ago. I also don't understand why she wants me to stop talking to him when she is busy herself talking to multiple guys, including one of the guy's buddies. Am I being irrational? Is she? Any opinion would help a lot. Too long didn't read. My friend introduced me to a guy she used to talk to but is now friends with. She changed her mind and is upset with me for talking to him because she still has feelings for him. However, earlier today I found out from our mutual friends that my friend has been crying non-stop and was extremely angry at me for talking to this guy. Apparently she dropped hints. Go with what she tells you herself with her own words. not what you hear from third parties about how she's supposedly very upset behind your back about her hints. If she's encouraging you to your face and raging to others that you believed her, then you shouldn't change anything if she's not willing to actually talk to you. On top of that, it may not even be true. She constantly assured me that things were okay. She was super encouraging of us talking and seeing each other, and even pushed him to ask me out on our first face-to-face date. She had been completely supportive and had been egging me on to talk to and hang out to this guy. Like, how sure are you that your mutual friends aren't fucking with you? And if they're being truthful, isn't that kind of her problem for lying to your face? Your fear of confrontation will only make this worse. Do not fear confrontation, look at it as a tool that can help you get the best outcome for everyone. Confrontation doesn't have to mean an argument or fight, it simply means dealing with the issue head on. What does that look like? Like this: sit her down, discuss both her and your feelings with her openly. Don't dismiss them, but don't make your decisions based on them. Make her feel heard and respected without doing anything to compromise your own boundaries and desires. Let her know you've heard from others she's upset and you want her to be open with you and tell you how she really feels. Then, ultimately, if the situation remains the same, you have to choose her friendship or this potential relationship. You should be prepared for having to make this choice as it is a serious potential outcome. But you cannot and should not make your decision until sitting her down and giving her an opportunity to express how she feels and for you to do so in return. If you sit her down and she continues to act as if she is fine and wants you to be together, well, ultimately that's her problem and not yours. What are you going to do if she calls shotgun on the next guy you connect with? You and your friend need to talk. You can't call dibs on a person. Feeling about someone she's not actually dating, and barely even dated, doesn't matter unless he wants her to. She actually told you she was cool, now has regrets because he's keen on you? That's not love. Jealousy, sure. Lust, maybe. If they'd been some long-term thing, I can see this being a valid dilemma. This looks more like a toddler who doesn't like you playing with her toys even after she's thrown them away. One of two things is happening here. 1. They didn't friend-zone each other. He rejected her, and now it stings that he is basically choosing you over her, because it makes her feel like she's not as good as you. Or 2. She wasn't that into him at first, but now that she sees that other women find him attractive, he is suddenly much more attractive in her eyes. He wasn't that appealing when she could have him any old time, but now that he's actually been validated as desirable by another woman, she sees value in him. Can you imagine, two people love each other, but cannot be together, because the third person does not like it? Let's be honest, it does not seem like your friend will be ever with that guy together. At this point she also does not want you to be with that guy. I understand, she is hurt, but it is not your fault. You do not have to suffer that it did not work out for her.